Hello everybody. So a few weeks ago I put out a post talking about the astrological changes that were going to happen this year starting in March of 2023, and we are now in March 2023, and one of those planetary changes is going to kick in tomorrow, March 7th, and that is the change of sign of Saturn that is going from Aquarius into Pisces. Saturn is a planet that has to do with lessons, often hard lessons that one has to learn. It has to do with discipline, it has to do with form, it has to do with the limitations and even problems and blockages. It also has to do with discipline and focus, and in some ways even with karma. Pisces, instead, which is the energy that Saturn is going into, is a sign of formlessness. So we have the planet of form that is going into the sign of formlessness. It has to do with the oceanic consciousness, with the water, with the actual ocean. Pisces is about spirituality. It is also about subtle things like subtle energy, homeopathic medicine, energy healing, and all of those things that have to do with the healing world and with the spiritual world and with the subtle energy. Pisces, however, also, like all things, has a dark side as well. And the dark side of Pisces is about lack of boundaries, so that oceanic consciousness and formlessness that represents the positive side of Pisces from a negative point of view can also be lack of boundaries, lack of definition, lack of clarity, and even confusion. And it can also have to do with delusions and even lies. Pisces is an extreme water sign. As such, it also has to do with sensitivity, compassion, empathy. Pisces is also associated with music and creativity of the inspirational kind. So what can we expect as we see Saturn move into this sign? Well, first of all, we may see formlessness coming into form. And that can mean things like new and different kinds of music can come into form at this time. It can also mean that there are healing modalities, spiritual things that also come into form at this time. And when I say come into form, I mean that they come from the spiritual world into the physical world. And they embody through the energy of Saturn in some form, in some container, in something that can be seen concretely in the physical world. If we go back to the time in 1993 in which Saturn went into Pisces before, during those 3 years, from a musical point of view, we had the birth of trance as a form of electronic music. There was electronic music before that, but the actual genre of trance music came into being in 1993, 1994, and had its golden years in terms of classical trance. The golden years were literally between 1993 and 1996, which is when Saturn was in Pisces. So we can see things of this kind, musical genres that come into physical form, artistic expressions that come into physical form during this time. And the significance of trance being a Saturn in Pisces genre is because trance is something that is designed to induce not just music listening, but also hypnotic states and other dimensional states of consciousness. So during this time in which Pisces was influencing Saturn, we have a very Piscean genre coming into a very physical form of music. Now, my sense is that we may also see some structure being put around healing modalities, energy modalities, and so on, meaning that there may be some certification programs or more mainstream containers for some of these things that have been on the fringe, including also alternative medicine and homeopathic medicine, and especially the forms like homeopathy that are more energetic and less concrete. Now, another thing about Pisces is that being ruled by Neptune, we can also associate it with chemicals, toxins, poisons, pharmaceuticals, and other substances of this kind. Now, because Saturn has to do with boundaries and limitations and blockages and problems sometimes, we can also see issues coming to the foreground with regards to pharmaceuticals, medicines, and toxins. And if you notice, all of these things are already brewing in the collective consciousness during the past 3 or 4 weeks, which we could consider the transition time of Saturn from Aquarius to Pisces. And for example, we have seen a lot of issues with toxic spills, with toxins in general, and I think that we can expect to have to deal with issues surrounding toxicity and toxic substances and toxic medicines and pharmaceuticals going forward as well. Now, as usual, when we talk about planets changing signs, we can come up with some hypotheses, pulling together archetypes and significators for the planets and for the signs that are coming together. But it is my experience that the universe has its own way of kind of surprising us with how the planets are actually going to manifest in the end. But it will always be a Saturnian experience moving into the archetypes and significators of that sign. So, starting tomorrow, March 7th, we will start to really see how these energies are going to embody this time around. That would be all for now, and thank you for listening. Bye for now.